G'day, this is X-Band, the Phantom Podcast. Our website is chroniclechamber.com and you can subscribe to our podcast via YouTube or through your favourite podcast apps. Do not forget to give us a rating on your podcast app and tell a mate about us. This is episode 268 and we're going to be catching up with Ashley from Art of Play Games and discuss the Phantom video game. It has been 7 months and 18 episodes since we last spoke to him. And as you will find out, a lot has changed. I am Jermaine, and welcome Dan and Stephen. How are you, gents?
I'm excited to talk to Ash again and look forward to what he's got to share with us.
I hope you're still looking forward to chat with us as well, Stephen.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah,
Dan, how are you?
School holidays have started up in Queensland, so I'm very good, and I'm very excited, as Steve suggested, to get to touch base with Ash again. It's 7 months ago; it's flown fast, and we've caught a bit about the edges around what's going on. But yeah, Art of Play has been deeply immersed in the Phantom, and I'm keen to hear what's been going on for him.
Yes. How are you going, Ash? Are you seeing purple when you close your eyes?
I am, mate. It's only been 7 months, really.
Yeah.
Feels like about... No, it feels like 7.
Have you actually slept at all during those 7 months?
No, I work 2 shifts a day, mate. So you stick your head down, you look at that purple screen, you watch the sun and the moon and all those... The whole world just sort of pass by you as a big blur.
When you say you work 2 shifts, is meaning like you work an Australian day, and then you have to work a US time as well?
Pretty much.
Yeah.
So there'll be like a normal Australian day shift, then there'll be a break for dinner, spend some time with the family, and then 8, 9 o'clock right through till about 2 a.m. is what I'm doing at the moment.
Yeah, wow.
Then repeat.
Well, we all appreciate the effort that you're putting in for the Phantom video game.
Oh, that was before the Phantom as well, man. That's just because I'm insane. So, yeah, I might be clocking in an extra couple of hours a day for the Phantom for sure, but it's not that far off from my regular hours.
Well, we appreciate it anyway. So,
thanks, mate.
For those who have come in late, Ash obviously is the director of Art of Play Games. We've talked to him before on the podcast. You'll be able to find all the links and everything. Now, since we've last talked, there's been a couple of changes and a couple of exciting things. So that's what we want to discuss. And then one of the things that you have done is that you actually went to the New York Comic Con in 2023. Mm-hmm. So I guess that's probably a good place for us to start. So how was that?
It was good, man. It was good in the sense that I could probably not ever do it again and be perfectly happy. It was insane, the amount of people. Like it was just a sensory overload on every level. So we had this very small booth set up next to massive publishing. And I had 2 of my team members from Art of Play there as well. We're all dressed up in Phantom gear. We were showing people live demonstrations of the game. And we had a real kind of cross section of people who had seen the movie once or twice in the 90s, right through to hardcore fans, right through to some of the most hardcore fans. And so it was good. It was just good to get that. And people say, "Oh, I remember the Phantom," And so that was the sort of, a couple of people said it made their day, which is also pretty cool. But yeah, it was 4 pretty much intense days, and just the logistics of getting around in New York, like just getting there and getting home every day or back to where we were staying. And the fact that New York now has legalized marijuana, which means like everything just smells like weed, the whole convention center was nuts. Everyone was high. Everyone was in good spirits. Everything was expensive, which is a classic Comic-Con, I think. I had a good time.
Awesome.
We did see on the social media a couple of people posting videos of themselves playing the game or you playing the game. Were there lots of people who... Like when you had the playable version there, how many levels were available for people? Like how long could they play for?
Three levels, so that would be about 15, 20 minutes.
Okay.
What we generally found is people just wanted to play it for like 30 seconds and go and do the rest of their stuff around the con. There wasn't really anyone who wanted to stick around for the full 20 minutes and play it. Hindsight being 2020, obviously if we're doing another display there again in 2024, we would probably have a more static kiosk set up so that people can go up and play without one of my team members hovering around them talking about it too much, because it kind of puts people off a little bit from a gaming perspective. I think people just want to sit down and play a game and not be kind of shown how to a certain extent, especially our audience and our age range. So yeah, I think next time we would definitely do, like, I'd really love to have a Phantom arcade machine running either a PC build or the Switch build there at Comic-Con for people just to play as they wish. That'd be cool. And this is also the logistics of getting everything into New York and into the convention center, because we don't have the budget to be spending hundreds of thousands of dollars on an event. So we were kind of coordinating with King Features. We'd sent all the stuff to them first, and then we collected it from their offices and took it into New York. If I had to do it all again, that'll be some of the stuff I would do, is just basically try and coordinate it and get some kind of bigger, fancier display for the actual game itself.
With the Comic Cons coming up next year in Australia, like Oz Comic Con and Supanova and that, could there be an arcade machine there?
Do you want to come around and help me build it, mate?
Yes.
Yeah, no. Yeah, I know. I'd love to. I would really love to. We had some arcades. We did a big arcade machine for Nickelodeon before the pandemic, and had 3 games in it that we designed for them, and it was so awesome to do a project like that. So, but I'm also aware of the time it takes. So having it ready for Supanova is a possibility. But yeah, I think if it's not an arcade, it would be more of a static kiosk kind of display. So people aren't pressured. They can just walk in, play it for a few minutes and walk away. Or they can stick around and I can chew their ear off for a couple of hours. It's fine.
Well, I think you've just given a massive, I've certainly just written it down in my notepad, idea for Phantom fans and collectors to build their own arcade games so that this thing can get loaded into it once it arrives. But gee, maybe that's something they could help you out with, loan it to you for Supanova and then keep it for their own collection.
Oh, absolutely. I'd be happy to help anyone out with the vinyl decals on the side. We've got a whole bunch of really high-res artwork from the game. So yeah, I mean, if any of the fans want to build one and we can help with facilitate it, by all means, that'd be awesome.
Oh, chroniclechamber@gmail.com. If you can help Ash out and we can help facilitate that, we'd be more than happy to do so if you're listening.
So did anyone pocket the banner and the pop-up in New York?
No one offered. We ended up taking it back to King Features and it's currently all sitting in their licensing rooms. They have like a showroom. So it's all just sitting in there. They were going to set it up after I left. So it could either be set up or it could still be sitting in their boxes. I'm not quite sure. Shipping it anywhere outside of New York was going to cost a fortune, more so than actually recreating the banners again. So yeah, everything is still sitting in King Features and we may use it again next year if I do anything in the States. But like I said, it's banners these days and things are so cheap to produce, and I can have them shipped directly from the manufacturer to wherever we're doing a convention. So that's what we'll probably do.
Awesome.
Yeah, King Features. I mean, King Features were happy to take it.
Oh,
awesome.
Of course they own it now.
Yeah, exactly. It's theirs. Yeah.
It's going to be released by the time this podcast comes out. Is actually the trailer. So we were going to play it again. If you're on YouTube, you'll be able to watch it and see it. If you're on audio only, you'll be able to hear it, but you might want to go onto YouTube and watch it because it will be pretty good. So we will play that and then we're going to talk about it if that's all right, Ash.
That's fine with me.
For those who came in late, 400 years ago, pirates attacked and destroyed a great sailing ship. A father sacrificed his own life to save his son. A sole survivor washed ashore. The young boy was nursed to health and swore an oath. I swear to devote my life to the destruction of all forms of piracy, greed, and cruelty. May my sons and their sons follow me. This is the legacy of my family. I am the Phantom. Where have you taken him?
It's just so cool seeing that come. No, I know Jim's got a bunch of questions here as well. We go through them all, but that's all artwork by Anthony Spade.
No, so Anthony basically set the creative tone for everything we do, and then I have 2 to 3 animators and finished artists come in, and colorists, probably 5 people in total, will come in and actually create frame by frame. So the process was, I did a really basic scene by scene. It's about 19 scenes in that sequence, and then gave that to Anthony. Anthony did all of the storyboarding cleanup from my original rough draft. And then it went off to an animator by the name of Leah, who's worked on some pretty cool stuff. And her parents actually had a phantom wedding. Then it came back to Anthony. He did some cleanup here and there, and he did most of the background work. And then it went to my other 2D artists, and then it went through a coloring process, and then audio. So yeah, it's quite a few layers going on there. But Anthony's definitely the core creative directionist behind everything, and certainly the background artist. But yeah, there's plenty of other people involved in it too. I mean, realistically, probably about 8 people in total putting that together over the course of about 3 months.
Yeah, wow. 3 months for a minute and a half.
Yeah.
That was going to be my question, is how long it went for.
Is that's all? Is it all usable in the game and/or / from the game, I guess?
The first section of the animatic, which is the origin story of the Phantom, will be played in the game. So basically, with a skip button, of course, you don't have to sit through it every time you start the game up. And then we basically took a whole bunch of video footage from the game, spliced it in, wrote the extended soundtrack with the drum beat, and then the cutscenes. The cutscene you see of the villain putting his hand up and the Phantom standing there, that's from the game.
Cool.
And then the Phantom roughing up the villain, asking, "Where have you taken him?" That's specifically for the trailer. You're not going to see that in the game at all. So it's a mix. Some of the stuff will be reused for sure. I mean, when you're developing for games, that's what your object is. You've got to make sure you can reuse some of this content. And that's pretty stock standard amongst reveal trailers too. Like, there will be some elements that are created just for it, and other stuff is taken from the game itself.
Yeah, cool.
Now, when you said about the action shot, so that's at the minute 7-second mark where the Phantom's leaning over and the action shot changes from behind the bad guy. Is that what you were talking about?
You are right. The scene where the enemy puts his hand up and says, and the Phantom is standing. Yeah, so the camera's flipped basically.
Yeah.
That's one of like 30 cut scenes in the game. So yeah, that's the level of cutscenes you're actually going to see in the game in terms of the level of the illustration.
So a cutscene, Jim, is when you're playing the game and like you've reached a certain part in the game, and then a cutscene happens where you're no longer in control of the game. It acts out like it's a movie.
It plays some extra storylines. It kind of sets up the next gameplay session.
Yeah.
So I'm assuming there you finished the level where you got to get the guy out of the plane. He's down on the plane, and that triggers the cutscene. So that's the end of the stage or end of the level, ready to go on to the next one.
Yep. And each cutscene will have anywhere from 3 to 5 panels, and we've got 15 or so cutscenes. So that's about 45 panels roughly.
I'm sure I'm not the only one who didn't know what a cutscene is. So
that's all right. I'll just explain. Steve's playing things for you.
Very good.
Actually, one of the things I noticed in the game there, particularly in that first bit, and I'm sure lots of people have who enjoyed the Phantom timeline stories, the Phantom history story from a couple of years ago, where they changed the costume throughout the different generations, may have noticed that there was a few different costume changes with the Phantom there. I think there was the Night Star, the Sixth with Redbeard, there was a cowboy in World War One. Are these guys going to be in the game? Or why did you put these guys in the trailer? It's still cool to see. I was
just trying to highlight the passing of time. And I really liked the transition. I had it in my head from the very beginning, the transition scene where he's holding up the skull to him holding up the sword, the broadsword. That to me was perfect, and I basically then just leaned everything off that. So, I'd spoken to Jermaine actually earlier in the year about like what kind of time frames would be most discernible by the audience. And, there's obviously with 400, 500 years worth of timings, you can kind of pick and choose. But we chose those ones purely because I think it kind of just brought out, it's easy enough for an audience member to say, oh, that's the Wild West, or that's World War One. And yeah, it's more just to give that sense of time passing, and that won't appear in the game. Although the game is heavily based on generation and lineage and that sort of thing, although it's not specifically talking about prior phantoms, it's more the future of the phantom.
And those images that you seem to come straight out of, well, in my mind, I can picture the stories that they've come from.
Oh, that's good. That's good. Yeah, yes. And that's where the Bible came in handy too, because we wanted to make sure it was all legit. Definitely World War One at the end, because I wanted the explosion to reveal the skull cave. And that came from the Dire Straits song, Brothers in Arms, that beautifully hand-drawn sequence at the beginning where the waves turn into skulls. I wanted to do something like that, where the explosion of World War One formed the shape of the skull, and then the skull appeared from behind it, and then the Phantom comes out. I thought it was really cool. And the Phantom 2040 animation sequence at the very beginning, there's an alternate version of that where the Phantom has a similar sort of scene where he comes down the skull cave as well. That's always weighed on me too. I quite like that. That whole sequence is really good. Obviously, they had a bit more budget than us, but being Viacom, but those are the kind of motifs we're going for.
Yeah. What about the choice to have the costume evolve? You mentioned that before. That's really a far more modern idea, I think, in Phantom fans. And Cy Barry would have drawn the sixth Phantom in exactly the same costume that he's got now, and the Renaissance Phantom exactly the same costume he's got now. But in the last probably 5 years, and it's probably Jeff Weigel, the Sunday and Daily artist, as much as anyone, who's led that.
We saw Jeff's images pop up on a Google search, and I'd always put that into a folder and just kept it to the side. And when Anthony and I were discussing the periods, we went through a couple of costume changes based on color and like whether his cape would be black or whether it would be purple. I mean, just too much purple on the screen, you wouldn't be able to make sense of the cape, so it became black. So there's lots of little things like that we had to make some changes just for the fact that these scenes were happening so fast that things had to sort of stand out a little bit. But yeah, I tend to agree with you that if you look back at the actual comics, there's not really much going on with the Phantom's costume in the period.
But I really like the choice that you made, because it's exactly like you said about being able to discern those generations and those, we pop back almost every 100 years. Where's the Phantom now? And we see that change. And I think the era-appropriate costumes really helps that.
Yeah. And it's not really well drawn in the traditional they have the generation of the figures sort of going back, stippling back over time. And that might work well in a comic panel, but it doesn't work well in a full animated sequence.
Yeah.
So it was like, how do you take that one panel and turn it into like 10 seconds or 8 seconds of animation showing time changing? And you can do really lame stuff like having a clock hand turn around really fast or calendar dates being pulled off. But, this was like, how do we show different periods of the Phantom's existence in a way that people don't go, oh, is that the current Phantom doing that? Or, it's like, it just needed to be super clear. And it might not be clear for first-time viewers of the Phantom, but I hope that someone who plays the game and goes and reads the comics and then goes back to the game again will be like, oh, okay, so this is the Phantom, his parents and his son, and the whole timeline sort of thing.
Yeah. All the nuffies will get it and love it. At the end, the Phantom,
the voice of an angry Phantom chills the blood.
Yeah, and so he says, where have you taken him? Now, is that part of the plot?
Yes,
because you haven't told us the plot yet, and I'm
and I won't
assuming
be.
you won't be.
Yeah.
So
You guys need to have some surprise in your life.
I
You really
100%
do.
with you, Ash. 100%.
Yeah.
No, that's all right.
Look,
we had to
it's
figure
bubbling
out
up
that
in me to want to tell you. It's not like I'm being stubborn about it. It is actually killing me that I can't tell you. But yeah, it is going to remain a secret. And the trailers we do in 2024 are not going to give a whole much more away than what we are now. So I want, like I told you guys before, there's a dual path in the story towards the end. And if I give away any of that now, other than what I've just said, it's going to ruin everything. And I want surprises.
I'm so grateful for that, Ash. I hope that the first time I come across that is when I'm playing the game. And I know working on the podcast and all the rest of it means that there's a chance that won't happen for me. But I love that. I love that you're setting that up for all the regular punters and all of the players of the game to enjoy.
I will give you this, though. I will give you this. Matt and I wrote a section while I was picking up my son from childcare. I was on the phone to him at the same time. And Matt said, "Do you think we could get away with this?" And I said, "Well, let's just try." And we did. So there you go. That's all I'll say.
Get away with it from a King Features. Are they going to approve it type deal?
Yep. Because by this point, the story had gone through 4 drafts. So at the 4th draft, and we're adding all this stuff in, and Matt's like, "Well, I don't think we're ever going to get this approved." And I said, "Well, let's just go for it. I mean, the worst they can say is no." So yeah, where there is some really cool stuff in there, and it made me so happy when they approved it. So
now the other thing that I've noticed, and again, it could just be a cool addition or it could be key to the story. The tiger at the end, is that just a cool little insert?
Just cool things, man. Just cool things. Every level, I said, even though this is a 2D hand-drawn world, I want to make every level feel like there is a certain sense of immersion into it. So there's going to be, the tiger's going to be meandering around in the background. We're going to have snakes in the jungle, and there's a whole bunch of like little small things that you might not pick up the first time you play it. There's going to be in the India levels. We've got pigeons and chickens, and we've got zebras pulling carts instead of horses. All historical references, mind you, that we've pulled from the 1930s in India. So there's going to be a whole bunch of those sorts of things that exist purely as eye candy, except for the zebras. They'll be able to stampede you. But tiger, straight up cool. That's the end of it.
Well, I can speak from experience that zebras do pack a mean kick.
All right.
I have been bucked or kicked by a zebra, and they do hurt.
Really?
Like my collarbone. So
that is something that we've all learned here today. 268 podcasts, and we've finally learned that Germ has been kicked by a zebra.
Yes.
That's all you need now is a cassowary, and you'll be
Oh, I got a cassowary story.
I did not know that too.
What's your cassowary story, Steve?
Well, at where was one of the zoos down here, wildlife parks, they've got a cassowary, and there wasn't a sign in the area, or was there, saying you shouldn't feed the cassowary. And my wife was feeding the cassowary. It's behind a fence, whatever. And, she's got the hand out, and it's kind of pecking like that. But then she's dropped something, and she's gone down to pick it up, and it's just gone to attack her. Luckily, there was a fence between it. We're not going to swear on the podcast, but may have needed a clean pair of undies after that.
Wow. Those things are as close to dinosaurs as you're going to get. So yeah.
Oh, they're a cross between a shark and an emu.
Yeah.
And all of the non-Australians have just found another reason never to visit Australia again.
Everything will kill you.
It was really cool actually to hear the British accent on the first Phantom and the boy, and it was almost like, I've never actually heard that in a British accent before. It makes so much. Of course, that's how that person, that Phantom, would have spoken. And then, of course, the really cool, gravelly older Phantom, and the voice acting. Are they going to be the voice actors for the game? What can you tell us in that vein?
Well, all this, because it's interesting how you talk about, like, you read so much of the Phantom and it gets into your head how he would talk, and obviously you can remember how Billy Zane talked, and even if you want to go back to the serials or Defenders of the Earth, and there's been a few different takes. My take was pretty much I wanted a Batman animated series kind of voice to the Phantom, and I'd been talking to a voiceover artist by the name of Daniel Moore, because he'd worked with us a lot on the Nickelodeon games, particularly with characters like Casey Jones, which we couldn't get sound bites for because there's not as much of that floating around. And with the Nickelodeon stuff, we were always kind of pushing the envelope on how much stuff we would include in the games, because Nickelodeon were basically saying, well, you can't put voiceover in the games. We would need to get extra clearance. So we would just go and get someone to mimic a voice and put it into the game at our own expense, because they couldn't say no to that, basically. So Dan had been on our books for quite some time, and I said to him really early on in the project, look, I want a Phantom. I want him to feel, because of the events in the game, he is on edge, and he's really battling not losing it, essentially. So I wanted that Batman animated voice, that deep voice to him, rather than the cool, calm, collected voice. And in terms of in terms of kit, I guess, the Skull Throne voice, we discussed like what a voice would sound like from that era, that sort of, crossing over to America from England kind of transient voice. So not full British, not full how Americans sound now, but that kind of in between accent. And it greatly offended our lead developer Billy, who's English. And I had to say to him, like, well, it's how I think it will sound. I don't care. There's probably a few British people out there that'll be offended by it because it's an American trying to do a British accent, but it kind of makes sense for the time period. So yes, that will be the voice actor who's going to be doing the Phantom voice throughout the game. You won't have to listen to that quasi-British accent outside of the animation trailer. So yeah, that's we'll be using Dan throughout, and we'll have some other people come in to do the voices of the Sing Pirates and other characters like that. But that's a lot of more groaning, a lot of short bursts, and not a lot of written dialogue. And we're still interviewing voice artists for Diana.
Cool. Now, an obvious question a lot of people will probably be thinking is, there would have been a nostalgic hope that Billy Zane might get involved, and we did talk a bit about that.
Yeah. Look, I want Billy to come in. I don't have the money for Billy to come in.
Right. So
if Billy wants to come in and the fans want to harass him, I do have some money for him, but probably not the amount of money he deserves. So we were planning to corner him at a convention in Jersey or somewhere near Jersey, because Anthony lives in Jersey, and it was only like a 45-minute drive for him. But some life events got in the way of him being able to get over to see Billy. So we still have that on the cards. And look, being a video game, there's not a huge script there. He could easily knock it out in an hour or two. Yeah. So it's just a matter of like finding the right way to approach him, and because this is all legit. We're all pretty hardcore fans here. It's not like we're in it to make a buck, although some money would be helpful. So yeah, it's just a matter of getting him the right time. Going through the agencies and things like that, trying to track him down, it's just like a dead end. So if any of the fans can reach out and tell me where he's going to be, if they're tracking him, we might be able to get a hold of him. And certainly, like already said to Dan, and Dan's cool with it. I said, look, if we can get Billy Zane, even if it's Billy Zane to do a secondary cast voice, because I know he's spoken before about wanting to do like an older Phantom, like the father of the next generation's Phantom or something like that. And we could give him some kind of role like that, just as a really small cameo, something he could just record and put on his phone if he wanted to. So yeah, it's still on the cards, and I'm not saying no, I'm not saying never. I actually want it to happen, but it's just a matter of when and where and how and with what money.
Yeah, fair enough.
Let's go to the fans and see if I can help donate.
Yeah.
But yeah, I don't know how much he would charge, and I'd also have to get King Features approval. So there's a few layers in there, but pretty sure he's going to charge for his time to get into the studio, to do this, to do that. And yeah, I don't know. He seems to be pretty cool with the conventions and stuff, and he's pretty relaxed with his time. So I'm hoping that we could get something on board, or give him a residual or something to make him, to get him on board.
Now,
I'll have the trailer and the box art and everything, so I can really just like throw it all at him and say, "Hey, this is."
Yeah.
But up until now, it's more or less been, "Hey, I'm just making a Phantom game," But now I've got everything legit. It's all like ready, so should be in a better position to actually let him know that we're for reals.
Awesome. So for those who have seen the trailer, they will notice that you have the date December 2024 on that. Now, when we first initially talked, we were hoping for an earlier date. Could you explain to us the change of date?
Yeah, want to make a better game. Want to release a game that's finished and not like every other game at the moment. It's coming out and has to be patched. Also, we've got the second Switch potentially coming, or not potentially, it is coming out sometime between middle of next year and the end of next year. And we didn't want to be last on that platform. We wanted to be first on the platform. So I spoke to King Features and I said, look, it'd be good to get the game out on the Switch, the next successor to the Switch, early rather than later. So if we could push it out and perhaps get it launched at the same time as the console launches, that's going to be great. And also I just think it was a little bit kind of ambitious of us to think we could finish a full game in a year and a half. And the original dates were all scheduled around King Features signing the contract way earlier than what they actually did. I mean, we were still negotiating up until December of 2022. So pre-production didn't start until January. So we've only been on this for 11 months. And, we had ideas at the start, and, things happen over time. Like, you want to create better looking visuals. You're not happy with things. The whole 2D aesthetic has taken a lot longer to produce. But we're really happy with the end result, and everyone who's seen it just says like it's unique, and it hasn't been really, this sort of thing hasn't been done in a long time, so if ever. So that's the real reason behind it. I mean, King Features were never really pushing us to get it out earlier. They agreed with us that a better product released at a better time would be better for them. And nothing has been created for the Phantom in 28 years on gaming. So why try and push something out in a year and a half? What's 6 months going to do?
When we've already waited 20 odd years.
Yeah. It's almost close to 30 now. So
yeah. You made mention.
I'm not apologetic for that, by the way. I'm going to stick in the mud and say, if people were thinking they're going to get it in June and now it's December, I was like, well, I prefer to give them a better game. So
now you made mention of Switch 2. So the game will still be usable on the original previous Switch as well. Yep.
Unlike a lot of games that are being made at the moment where developers will develop it on PC and then port it to the consoles, we're actually developing it on the PC and the Switch at the same time.
Okay.
So our port will be to PlayStation 4 and 5. But right now, we know it's going to work on the Switch. It's optimized for the Switch. And with the Switch 2 being more powerful, potentially, I don't know the exact specs of it. No one really does yet, except for the big AAA studios. We know it's definitely going to work. So
awesome.
I'm confident once we get the development kits early next year, middle of next year at the latest, we should be in a good position to launch with it on both. And also, we don't know how cross-compatible they're going to be. It could just be that the regular Switch will be fine for the new version, just the same micro card, SD card, whatever it is.
Following on what you've just said and tying that into something we said just before we started recording, what does that mean for you, Ash, in terms of when you step away from the game? Like when you go, right, from my end, the art, the design, the story, everything's in place. I've got to hand that over to the tech guys for all of the various platforms to go, right, now you put this together and make it a game that's going to work on those. Is that even a proper question from someone who's completely outside the gaming industry?
No, there's no real handover. It's all just done continuously. So we'll be getting the PlayStation side of things sorted March, April. So there's no real cutoff point of one thing finishing and then another thing beginning.
Okay.
It's all just in the mix. There is a certain point where Anthony Spay and my other designers will not have anything to do.
Yes.
And at that point, then they will move on to other projects. But I will still be maintaining the entire project all the way through. So I'll be still talking to lead dev, Billy, all the other devs we have on, and all that sort of side of things to keep the project and look, there'll be other graphical things we need to add in as we start doing more play testing. So I'll have to get the designers back in to do extra sprites and things.
Yeah, okay.
What about the Xbox? You haven't mentioned that one yet.
Well, there's a bit of a reason behind that. Xbox has been very difficult, and not just with us, just across the board. I don't want to kind of bag them out, but there's always been kind of like a hierarchy to how difficult platforms are to work for, and usually it's like Sony has been like usually the hardest to get onto, and then Nintendo, and then Xbox has usually been the easiest. But in the last couple of years, it's been made a lot more difficult to actually, because they're not going to review our game and even give us the tools to do the porting until they've seen a trailer, for example. So we have to do a lot of work, a lot of preliminary work, just to get them to look at the game and approve it for their online. So we initially wanted to do Xbox on both digital and hard copy, but it looks as if hard copy is going to be out of the question unless we do a survey and we find out there's like 2,000 people that want, or 1,000 people that want an Xbox version. They're releasing less and less into stores. Stores are, especially in the US and Europe, they're starting to cut back on physical media. And by the end of next year, it's just going to continue to be worse. I've always been an advocate for hard copy media. I think it's much better than relying on just having all your content streamed. You don't have any real rights to it at the end of the day.
Yeah.
But there are so few people buying Xbox hard copy games now that when we spoke to Limited Run last week or the week before, they basically said, we're not going to be investing in Xbox anymore on anything we do. And all the other publishers we spoke to said, we're only going digital anyway. So it looks like at this stage, unless Xbox completely turn around and say we're going to be supporting physical media, it looks like physical media will just be Switch, the new version of the Switch, PlayStation 4 and PlayStation 5. And then digital will be, I can't give you an answer on Xbox in terms of digital because they haven't approved it yet. So our goal is to have it on digital. It might be that the digital releases on Switch, PlayStation first, and then it takes a little bit longer to go onto Xbox digital. But until we get their approval, I'm not promising Xbox at all. I mean, it's just the feedback from Limited Run was, unless you're a AAA studio, Xbox want nothing to do with you in terms of their physical media. So.
Well, that's a shame. I've got an Xbox, but on the other hand, I also have a Switch, so I'm happy in that.
Yeah, the style of game it is, and the 2D component. I mean, it's not a huge, Goliath of a game that's going to require the highest end console to run it. So my preference would be Switch or PlayStation for sure, but. Yeah, like I said, we'll be presenting the game to Xbox before Christmas, and if they do give us permission to go onto Xbox Pass, that's where we'll go digitally. But yeah, Limited
Game Pass.
Game Pass. Limited Run do not want to deal with Xbox on unless it's like going to be a huge title, and I could be wrong, but we would need more than a couple of thousand people wanting an Xbox copy for Xbox to even be like, well, we're going to go ahead and, release this. And even then, it's not going to go into Walmart. It's not going to go into any of the stores in the US because they're just not going to be stocking it by the end of next year, or most likely not. So yeah, we feel like the whole industry is kind of like merging and changing around us as we make this game, and we're kind of having to keep making changes as we go through, but. We're still sticking to our guns, digital release, get it in front of Xbox, try and get it out on digital at least with Xbox, but I'm not guaranteeing the print at all at this stage.
So much of the world is going that way. I think about the Netflix and the Disney Pluses and the TV streaming services, meaning that there's fewer DVDs or Blu-rays produced as well. it's a tough time in a sense, because you really are relying on someone with a computer somewhere else to let you watch the movies or play the games that you want to be involved in, rather than
100%. I wanted to play my Switch on the flight over to the US, but the games I wanted to play, the Switch has to check against the Nintendo store before it allow you to play a game. And what are you going to do when you're on a Qantas flight heading over the Pacific? There's no Wi-Fi. You can't connect to the Nintendo store. So you got to go out and buy the hard copy version anyway. So there's lots of things that they have to fix, I think. And just in general, I'm an advocate for hard copy games, physical media for me. Like, I grew up with the Super Nintendo and the Nintendo 64. So like we just had games. They were just there. You plugged them in, they worked. No one was overseeing it. If you wanted to throw it over to your friend for a week to take home and you got a couple of his games back, it was just so much simpler. But I can see the value in it, but the value only exists if the platform owners are playing fair. And I don't necessarily think that's going to be the case 100% of the time. So we after Comic-Con, we got an email from a publisher in the UK. And they were very, very direct with us. They said, we love the fans and we want to publish it for you. Here's a contract. Now, that's rare. Like that rarely happens. Normally, you've got to negotiate. But they were very, very interested in the game. So I instantly said to them, no, we're already signed with Limited Run. But I said, let's have a chat anyway about future projects. So we started talking and we said, look, our fan base, not just for the fandom, but for projects we've got lined up, are going to want physical media. I want physical media. We've got collectors. We've got people who are interested in owning something they can put on their shelf as well as something they can play. And they were adamant that they're going all digital. They wanted nothing to do with physical media. And that if we would have to sort of negotiate it as an addition to our regular publishing deal for that to happen. So, and these guys are in multiple countries, 400 staff, and they're going straight digital. So I think over time, it's going to be harder and harder for small studios like us to get a physical release of a game, just because publishers don't even want to have the hassle of doing physical media anymore. Just because it adds on an extra cost for them. If they can just publish something digitally and take 18% of our revenue, then, it's just so much easier for them to make their coin back. We're actually very lucky with Limited Run and the fact that they're all huge Phantom fans, that they basically said to us, without me even kicking up any kind of stink about it, they just said, yep, we'll do a global distribution, we'll do the collector's box, we'll do everything. And I think they're going to go gangbusters in the next couple of years. If all these other guys are saying, no, we're going to do digital release, they're going to make a huge amount of money.
They're going to corner the markets because people, Generation X and all that, who like the physical stuff, and particularly with things with, Phantom or whatever other titles that you're going to be working on. Like you said, they want it on the shelf. And, we're talking about before about movies and TV shows and, Netflix, but also music. CD stores music stores are closing unless you're JB Hi-Fi or something like that. But on the flip side, vinyl is booming. Secondhand stores who've got vinyl are doing okay.
I have a sneaking suspicion this will all come around.
Yeah.
Don't know how long it's going to take though.
It'll take a little bit it was like when, everyone thought that books were going to fall off the face of the earth and everyone was going to read Kindles. I hate reading a Kindle.
Yeah. I think Nintendo will be the last company to give up the physical media side of things, even though they do have a heavy push on the e-store, on the Nintendo shop, basically, to try and get as much digital content out, because they make a fortune off that, right? They're getting 30% on every sale. So it makes sense for them from a business perspective, but they also at least still seem to be aware of the collector's market and people wanting to own multiple copies of a game, in different regions and different covers and all that sort of stuff. And we don't want to lose that. Xbox has never been big for me personally, but we still want to at least get on their digital platform if we can. But the physical media side of things, we're projecting a year in advance what the market is going to look like. And from where it's going now, I think there's just going to be less and less reason for anyone to want to buy an Xbox copy in the store. They're going to have to go to a boutique to get something like the Phantom. So we'll see how it goes, but that's where we're at the moment.
Well, I was one that meant something to me because
Yeah.
I play the Xbox, whenever I can. That's why I'm playing Assassin's Creed at the moment, and like I know I could have got I could have downloaded a digital copy of it, but I like Ash said, I like the physical copy. I like putting the disc into the machine. I like
definitely our
the
generation too. 20,
Yeah.
like 30 to 60-year-olds all want physical media, and it's fine. It's good.
Now, another change which we've discussed is that you're not doing a Kickstarter campaign for the Phantom. Could you explain a little bit about that for us, please?
Yeah, that's kind of tied into what we were talking about, the physical release. So our agreement with Limited Run was going to make it just far too difficult for us to be creating and fulfilling a Kickstarter campaign when we were kind of doing it without necessarily the permission of, not the permission, but like we wanted to get everything through Limited Run for the physical release of the game and then basically give those units off through the Kickstarter. But because it was going to take too long, it would have meant the Kickstarter would have started in March or April and not been fulfilled until March or April of 2025. So it just seemed like a long time to make people wait. It was a lot of effort to set it up. It wasn't really something we wanted to dedicate that amount of time to. It would be taken away from the development of the game. And we'd spoken to a bunch of agencies to try and facilitate a Kickstarter for us. And the fees were astronomical. And we didn't know what the regular retail price was going to be at the end of 2024. So if we're offering Kickstarter levels at a certain dollar value, we could be losing a couple of dollars, also could be gaining a couple of dollars. We're not quite sure. So there's too many unknowns. So we went back to the drawing board because we still wanted fans to feel like they're going to be engaged in this game. And we thought about doing a Patreon. So basically allowing fans to sign up for a very low amount per month to get a whole bunch of different stuff, monthly signed artwork pieces from Anthony, the ability to be credited on the game as a contributor, right through to we're going to be running a competition for some of the NECA toys, including one that's been signed by Billy Zane. So yeah, we've got a whole bunch of things in that. And I just felt like that was a simpler way of getting the engagement happening with the fans, getting the fans to participate and feel like they're actively involved in the game, and not necessarily and have everything set up so it feels like you're getting something of value for a minimal amount of money that wasn't going to drag our team away from actually completing the game. And the value of Kickstarter, once we took away postage, once we took away the whole fulfillment side of things, the time investment in setting it all up, on the dollar, we'd be walking away with about 10 cents. So we feel like this at least gives us some money back into the studio. It will allow people, once we start releasing the other content we've got coming out for other games and things like that, people can see like, okay, so we want to continue supporting the play or not. We don't expect people to sign up and be a Patreon for 12 months. If they just want to sign up for a couple of months, they'll still get the perks. So yeah, we just trying to make something that's fair, that we get a little bit of cash in the door, the fans get the ability to contribute, and we're not beholden to the juggernaut that is Kickstarter, if that makes sense.
Yeah, makes lots of sense. Now, is there going to be just the one level of Patreon?
2 tiers.
2 tiers. Are you able to tell us that, or that's to be discussed later?
I've got the tiers sorted, but I think we can chat about that perhaps on another podcast. We're hoping to launch the Patreon by the end of January.
Yep.
The big thing is going to be we're going to be giving away NECA figures. We're going to be giving away the one signed by Billy Zane at Comic-Con next year. We're going to have monthly artwork pieces, limited artwork pieces signed by Anthony, and a whole bunch of other stuff on there too. Early access to the trailers, all that sort of stuff.
Awesome.
And also the ability to have your name credited, depending on which tier. You'll be in 2 different categories. It's just going to be We've got an executive producer tier. So basically, you're on the game as an executive producer. There's a whole bunch of extra stuff on there. Also, we're going to be launching a merch store for at thephantomgame.com. So we've just been given the official green light from King Features to do all our own merch that links to the game. And there's going to be some cool stuff in there too, and some kind of a little bit of abstract kind of merch that you can buy. Merch that's deliberately tied to the games.
I've just searched Art of Play on my Patreon app, not there yet. So anyone listening to this right now who wants to get behind the game, don't burn your powder too quickly. End of January, Ash, we need to be. You'll put an announcement up, I guess, for people to jump on then.
Yeah, there'll be an announcement across all social media on the phantomgame.com website. And that's when we'll be starting the Patreon in the end of January. And it's going to run permanently all the way through until launch. But there is going to be some big news announcements from our studio midway through the Phantoms production of 2024 that I'm hoping will really solidify the Patreon in terms of like a longer term support from members.
Yeah. So they're supporting Art of Play, the company, rather than the Phantom game specifically.
Yeah, but people can jump out once the Phantom game is finished. They can jump out after. We're going to put some terms and conditions in there. So if you want your name listed on the Phantom games, on the actual credits of the game itself, you need to be a Patreon for a minimum of 3 months. Which I think, at roughly $5 for the first tier. I mean, that's a $15 investment to get your name permanently listed in the game. I think that's pretty reasonable.
I'll be doing that and freeze framing and posting. Here's a screenshot of me, a supporter of the game.
That's awesome. Appreciate it.
Awesome. All right, so we'll go over some of the key dates and then we'll ask you lots of questions. So we've already talked about middle December. This year, you are releasing the teaser trailer with the backstory in the game gameplay. Is that correct?
Yep. So the one you've just seen, that's the one that's coming out next Friday.
End of February 2024, which is what we've just been discussing, which is there's going to be a site update with new screenshots. You're also going to be releasing your Patreon and also the merch.
I've put in end of February there. We'll probably be dialing that back at least a few weeks, but that end of Feb to be safe. But yeah, we want to release it a little bit earlier. I think when we originally did that timeline, we hadn't yet had approval from King Features, but now that I've got the approval early, we'll probably launch that a little bit earlier.
And then people would have had at least a month to recover from Christmas and New Year. So what type of merch are we looking at, with obviously what you can tell, what you do want to share?
Yep. So we've got limited printed pieces from the game. So some of the background arts and composed pieces of the game itself, from the artwork from the game, all numbered and signed. We're going to have T-shirts, we're going to have hoodies, hats, all the basic sort of standard clothing line sort of stuff. And then we've got a couple of big ticket items. So for the super fans, we're offering in various levels of the games, there's some background elements. So we're offering fans the ability to have their face inserted into the game as a background element. So on a poster, where we think it will best fit, that's going to be available to purchase. There's going to be a limited number of spots for that. So basically you can purchase that, you'll have your face put into the game, and you'll have your stylized face that's been drawn by Anthony and one of our team members. That will be sent to you as a printed, a signed piece.
What type of price are we looking at for that?
I haven't decided yet.
So are we talking 100 to 1,000?
No, we're talking hundreds. We're talking hundreds. Yeah. And then we've got a couple of extremely limited spots where we'll have you inserted as an actual animated character in the game. So at this stage, it's going to be an enemy. So if you want to be pummeled by the Phantom in the game, that will be in there as well.
Who wouldn't want to be?
This is a very punchable face, Ash.
You look like a bad guy, Dan, with that beard. You look like a rough man.
Yeah, it looks like something from a Wilson McCoy story.
Yeah, we're also working on a 3D maquette as well. So a resin maquette that will be available in the store too. One of the iconic things. A statue.
Okay.
That'll be based on one of the key scenes in the game. So they're the big ticket items.
Now,
Okay.
are these this merch, like as in the t-shirts and the statues and whatever, are they just through the online store, the Patreon, or you see them in EB Games, for example?
It'd be nice. I haven't actually spoken to EB Games yet, but it'll just be available through the site and shipped directly to you. And for the big ticket items, we're asking for a down payment installment first, and then once you see what we've created for you, the final payment will be made before it'll be given to our development team to put into the game. So we're hoping those levels and those extra merch items will give people an opportunity to really feel like they're being part of the game. And we're not charging exorbitant fees. We're charging what it would cost and what it costs us to put these elements into the game too. So it's not a cash grab on our behalf. It's more or less, we just think it'd be fun for some people to be able to say, hey, that's me.
Yeah.
Awesome.
So, yeah.
And then in March, towards the end of March 2024, there's going to be a playable demo release to Patreon supporters.
Yep. So Patreon supporters in the second tier will be able to have access to a Steam release of the game. So everyone will get a code. We may release it to the first tier of Patreon as well at a slightly later date. Like there might be a 2-week time difference.
I guess my initial question is why is it so early compared to the physical game release, which is later?
Well, the way the physical release is going to work, limited run need to get an indication as to how many copies they need to make.
Yep.
So pre-orders will go out on the limited run website, thephantomgame.com, about 3 months before the digital release goes out. It is set live on all the platforms. Then there is usually about a 8 to 12 week delay once the digital release goes out. We want some time to work with limited run to make sure we're giving them the most thorough, tested, bug-free version of the game for each of the platforms. They then know how many pre-orders they've got. The game goes out to the pre-order people first, and then it is shipped globally to all the stores after that, or at least the same time as that. So people who just want to pick it up in the store, maybe waiting until February of 2025-ish, if they just want to pick it up from a random EB Games or something like that, I would strongly recommend pre-ordering. It just takes time. Physical media takes time. And we've seen what happens when studios rush it. And, then you get the game, you put it in, and you've got to wait for a 10 gigabyte patch to download. We want the actual game that's on the cartridge or on the disc to be as close to, the final version as possible, bug-free, all that sort of stuff. So, yeah, that's...
How are those bugs going?
They're infinite. And every time you add something in, our lead developer, Billy, should be on the next podcast, just so he can spend 2 hours talking to you about bugs. Yeah, no, they're infinite. I mean, we got through the first 3 levels playing in front of King Features on the Switch without a single glitch. So that was pretty cool. There's nothing worse than sitting in a boardroom with 8 people and having to apologize for something crashing multiple times. But yeah, so, we're doing pretty well so far.
Now, I guess some exciting news for a lot of fans, whether you're in Australia or even America, is April 6th to 7th, you will be at Melbourne Supanova.
Yeah, it looks like so far we're going to have a panel there. Still negotiating with the Supanova guys. They reached out to me a few months ago and I said, look, we're still getting the trailer ready. We're still got a lot of stuff. We're off to the States to present it to King Features. So we're retouching base again, but they threw the panel at me just to basically approve. So I think we should be in a good position to be to have that locked in, hopefully early in January, maybe end of January.
Well, Stephen, you have to go to that one, so book your time in now.
I'll be there.
We'll be
worry.
recording that one. And for the others who go to Sydney Supanova, you're also planning on going there, which is in June 22 to 23.
Yeah, and it looks like it looks like I'll be speaking at the charity event for the Phantom fans beforehand as well.
Awesome.
So the invitation came through for that last week.
Okay.
So
sweet.
if you're going to that, I think you guys are raising money for the Phantom fans are raising money for the
Westmead.
Sydney Children's Hospital, is it?
Yeah,
Yep.
for Westmead. Yeah.
Yeah.
And we've just recently had a podcast with Antonio Di Dino, who was one of the founders of that. So that was in episode 258. So if you haven't listened to that one and you're wanting to know what Ashley's talking about, swing over and have a listen to that and you will know what's going on.
Well, Matt Kyme actually, who wrote the Phantom story, he reached out to me last week and said, "Are you interested?" And it took me a while to respond because I was so flat out. But we just spoke Friday night, and yeah, it's all going to happen. So pretty excited about that.
That's really cool,
Awesome.
Ash.
Excellent.
Awesome.
Right. Well, I'm going to have to contact my place of work and put in some long service leave to make sure I get down there for the dinner this year.
Oh, mate, absolutely. We'll have a few drinks.
I've got a new place of work, so I've got to really butter them up.
So a couple more dates. So we've got September 20th, 2024. You're looking at doing the NECA competition, which you have already discussed, and that's going to be for Patreons. Is that correct?
Yeah. So we have so many NECA figures here. One of them is signed by Billy Zane. That's going to be the key prize. We're going to be officially launching it in September for a month. But all Patreons who have signed up before then will have access to it, will be automatically entered into the competition to win it. There's going to be a bunch of other things that will be coming up in terms of small prizes and stuff along the way. But that's the one we thought fans would be most interested in.
You are going back to the New York Comic Con in
Yeah,
October
so
17th to the 20th, 2024.
yep. So at this stage, it looks like we're waiting on confirmation from King Features as to their budgets for 2024. But if all goes to plan, we'll be doing a joint stall with King Features.
Oh, wow.
So this will be the first, 2024 will be the first year King Features has been in Comic-Con. So
I was going to say, they're not a group I've heard be at the Comic-Con ever.
yeah, so I think it's going to be their first. So yeah, there's a lot of moving parts at this stage. But yeah, that looks like it'll be, if they're not going to be at Comic-Con, we probably won't do it. We'll probably focus on San Diego instead. Yeah, that looks like a strong possibility at this stage.
Well, hopefully they have the TV show that's in development, which it says on their website. Hopefully they'll have something on that as well.
Yeah, well, I don't know what the writer's strike and all that sort of stuff has done to development. Be interesting to see. I didn't really press them on that once when I was there. So yeah, you guys might hear before me.
Now, also, you've got for around the same time as New York Comic Con, you've got the planning for the pre-orders for the limited run with their website. Could you explain a little bit about that for us?
Yeah, so we'll be announcing the 2 versions of the game and the multiple platforms. So your standard edition and your collector's edition. Then they'll be available for pre-order on the limited run website. We'll be linking it from the Phantom website. We'll be linking it from all socials. We'll give everyone a huge update on when it's going to go live. And then basically you can order it from them, have it delivered directly to you. I'm not quite sure if they're going to be ordering any for delivery to certain stores, but you can also go into any of your game stores. Like I highly encourage people to go to your EB Games or your JB Hi-Fi and say, hey, there's a Phantom game coming out. Can we pre-order it? Because they'll type it into their system and they'll see the limited runner doing it. They'll order a bunch of copies and we get the money.
How soon can they do that? Like now, or do you have to wait a little bit longer?
I'll be waiting probably until September-ish. Yeah.
Hey,
Awesome.
Siri, set a reminder for September 2024. Go into EB Games and ask.
Games and ask for the Phantom game for the 1st of September 2024.
Awesome.
So the standard and collector special. So I'm assuming the standard is just your stock standard chip slip that you buy, and your collector special that's going to have collectible items in it.
So we've got a art booklet. We've got the soundtrack. And the soundtrack, mind you, by Clark so far is sounding incredible. So I'm really happy that's going to be an added bonus. And then the rest of the items are still in development with limited run. So I'll keep a few of those secret.
Of course,
Um,
of course. We'll probably be doing other
We're
podcasts
producing the art book and a few other pieces ourselves and having it shipped to limited run.
Yep.
Just because we want to control over the production a little bit. And it helps keep our production prices down, because if limited run are going to do it, it's in US dollars and it's going to cost an absolute fortune just with the currency conversion. So we're doing a little bit of the stuff ourselves, but the soundtrack and everything's going to be produced by limited run. And yeah, it's going to be, you'll feel like it's a decent pack for sure.
Now, the collector's special, are we looking at about what? About 100 to 150?
I know, less than that, man. There's probably some good indicators at the moment on the limited run website. If you go to limitedrungames.com.
All right, so I've got a PS5 Atari Recharge collection, which is $70. More Jurassic Park Collector's Edition, $100.
I would be guessing somewhere between the $79 and $100 AUD price. If you look at the Beacon Pines Deluxe Edition set, which comes with the soundtrack, the game, an art book, some pins and some stickers and things like that, you're looking at $70.
So for all those completists, they'll be buying one in PS, Nintendo 1 and 2.
Yeah, look, I don't know what to say. Yes, please, buy away. Yeah, I would be like $100 Australian would sort of be like the peak, I would imagine. Like I said, stuff ourselves, that does cut down the retail price a fair bit. The collector's packs, I think at this stage will only be available through limited run. You won't be able to walk into an EB Games and get the collector's edition. I don't think. I will have to triple check. So, yeah, shipping, I'm not quite sure how much in total, but yeah, that's where we're at.
End of November, early December 2024, you're looking at the digital release for the Switch and the P5 network.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
So just in time for Christmas for all the digital purchases.
And like I said, once we get in front of Xbox before Christmas this year, we will have an idea of whether or not it's feasible to get it onto Xbox digital during the same time frame. Like I said, it could be a little bit later, but we'll see how we go. They could just say we don't like the game completely and close the door, but we'll see.
Late February 2025, you'll be looking at the physical copies release date, which will be in the shops for major US, European, and Australian retailers.
Yep.
Then you'll finally be in a position, Ash, where you can wash your hands of the Phantom and be done with this project that's taken years and years of your life.
Years of my life, thousands, and well, I'm not going to go into the money side of things, but yeah, I don't think so. I think like it's interesting because before we were doing console games, we were churning out a game every 4 or 5 months for Nickelodeon, and it gave you the opportunity to like switch off your brain from one brand and then turn it on for another, and in pretty quick succession. But with the Phantom, it's been a year and we're still going. It's going to be another year. But I don't think there's any single person on the team that's expressed any notion of being tired of the Phantom yet. I think it's having the trailer ready and having done all that in-house, and everyone's super pumped about it, and the feedback internally has been really good. So yeah, I don't think this is going to ruin the brand for me by a long shot. Maybe I'll take a little bit of a break, 4 or 5 months. But yeah, no, I think the Phantom will always be my comic book hero. You know what I mean? Like, it's just that, even more so than any like Batman or anything like that. It's always going to be top tier for me.
Right from the first moment we ever had any contact with you, that's and the last podcast, this podcast, it's rung so true. And I think that's why so many people, well, certainly it's part of why I'm looking forward to what you're producing, because we know the passion and the heart behind it.
Yeah, thanks, man. Like, it's, you know, it's a perfect opportunity for us coming out of the online gaming sphere to work on a brand that you love. I mean, it doesn't happen that often, you know, and just being able to send something off to King Features and they respond to you within a few hours and having that adrenaline rush of like, okay, this can be something real. Is an extremely rare. I mean, there's games I've been trying to get greenlit for 5 or 6 years that just seem to be always on the cusp but never happen. And for this to sort of turn around in like I said, 6 or 8 months from when we started talking to King Features to when we got the contract was pretty special.
Now, you've made mention of King Features a few times. So I guess, you know, briefly in 5-10 minutes without breaking any confidential discussions or anything like that, can you tell us a little bit about how you found working with King Features?
I mean, they're great. Like I said, there are a few companies out there that, I mean, we look as a studio, we look good on paper. We can definitely deliver a product and we can definitely match a brand overview of a product and get it out there in game form. And that's what we've been known for a decade or more. But we found it very hard when the pandemic hit to pivot to console gaming and have that trust in people. We've certainly lost trust in others and had people not trust us. And it's very difficult to have to reprove yourself constantly. But King Features were like, we looked at the document, we think you're a good fit. They could see like what we're going for. And, you know, they've had a change of guard with new people coming in. And I was just blown away by how switched on they were. The meeting went very well with them. It's always very daunting. You know, I've only been in the country for a week. I was still jet lagged. Walking into a boardroom with a game that is incomplete and setting it up and hoping that it doesn't catch on fire. But they're very, very supportive. And I think they've got some great ideas. And I think I'm hoping now, after getting their feedback from the Phantom, that we can continue to work on more projects down the line, because there's a lot of other brands that they have that I would love to work on. So yeah, super happy with them. They're super responsive now to the stuff I send through, and sometimes as you might have guessed, I can waffle on even in email form. So at least they're very kind in responding to me. All the approvals have gone through pretty well. I mean, we've not really had any major differences in viewpoint on how they should be treated. They've been very happy with the promotional side of things in terms of like how the outer shell of the game looks, like how we're presenting it to the world. So yeah, I just think we've worked with a lot of companies, and we still work with a lot of other companies as well, but they're top tier for us, and we just hope that it can continue on. I mean, things are going to always get a little bit sort of crazy towards the end of a game release, and that's always a testing time for relationships, but just take it day by day. And yeah, I think that the back of their heads, they know that we just care about the product, and we're not just looking at it from a standard licensing perspective. We just want to buy a license and ship something out and count the dollars. And I know that for a fact, because that's what they told us. I've had other offers over the years, but our presentation was what got us across the line. And yeah, I think it's gonna go really well. I mean, it's any relationship with a big company, and we're a small studio, is always going to be kind of lopsided. But you just take it day by day. You take it email by email, approval by approval, and just hope that everything goes well. But so far it has. It's interesting when you work with a lot of big clients over the years, like the people that hold the purse strings are not necessarily the people you think are holding the purse strings. So it's it's just a whole, I've often said to people that making a video game isn't actually about making a video game, but you are playing a game. But it just feels very genuine with King Features. Like they genuinely have a strong affinity to the brands they're working on, and that kind of came through. We've collectively spoken since we got to New York, and through Comic-Con and post Comic-Con, I had a bit of a debrief meeting with them. I mean, probably all up 5 or 6 hours worth of conversation face to face, which is rare, super rare.
That's very exciting. So I guess last question, what is next?
We have another comic book title that we're working on starting pre-production early next year, which will be in a similar vein to the Phantom, but also completely and utterly different. It's going to be M-rated. So a lot more adult content than we've probably done collectively in 15 years. And so that's going to keep us going for all of 2024. On top of the Phantom, that's kind of like, we don't need a great deal more at that stage. But we have a lot of other things in the pipeline and deals partially signed and ready to go. So it's going to be exciting for us in the next few months to announce some things in early 2024. And to be fair, the feedback from the Phantom, not only from the fans, but publishers and just general marketing companies, it's been phenomenal. We're being bombarded by other publishers wanting to offer us, times to talk and things like that. And it's a complete day and night from where we were 3 or 4 years ago when we were trying to get in front of people. So I think it's been a testament to my team who put together a product that comic book companies and artists see as, oh, okay, there's a studio out there that's exploring this kind of look for gaming, and publishers are seeing it as an opportunity that someone's doing something slightly different. And I know we've just been put in a pretty good position for 2024 moving onwards. In fact, we've got kind of like a bit of a 5-year plan worked out for 2 or 3 more releases. So I'm being super vague, I know, but more to come early in the year. But I'm, being the owner and director of a company, you can go through massive highs and massive lows, and often in the space of a day. You can think that everything is sweet at 9 a.m. and then by 4 p.m. you think the world's going to end. But ultimately, what's happened to us in the last 12 months with the Phantom has put us in a really good position. So we're just super pumped. We want to stay in this field. We want to stay making high quality 2D games, traditional artists, getting more traditional artists on board. We want Anthony to stay on the team long term, to be a creative director with us, but also bringing in other talent from the 2D world. It's been really interesting working with comic book artists because they want to know more about games and producing content for games, and it's a learning curve for them. It's great for us because they're not usually producing content for games, so we're getting pretty unique content. So we want to be in this space, and I think we will be for at least the next 3 or 4 years.
Well, it's vague but very exciting, Ash. So
onwards and upwards.
Yeah.
I say this, I'm kind of like, the adrenaline's already pumping, and it's 11 o'clock on a Sunday night. So
almost time for you to start your second shift.
Mate, going to get into it.
From my end, Ash, you talked about burning the candle at both ends, and anyone who's watching the YouTube version can see in the background that you've got candles burning all over the background. I do love that. That scene that you've got in the Skull Cave there, and just thank you for everything you're doing. And I'm so pumped for you and for Art of Play that it's working out so well, and that there's such a positive future going forward. And if in some way that's on the back of the Phantom, then that's really cool. So thank you, and good luck, and good luck with the rest of tonight's shift.
I really do appreciate it. Thanks, mate.
So excited for this to happen, and so happy that you're at the wheel directing it all there, Ash. It sounds like it's all in good hands.
Just keep watching socials, keep going to thephantomgame.com. We try to post as much as we can, as frequently as possible. Yeah, just keep your eye on what's going on, and we're looking forward to having the fans be more of a part of this process in 2024 and creating a pretty unique experience. I mean, it's going to be crazy as hell as we reach the tail end of the year, but as long as we hold it together, I think we're in an awesome position to release a piece of Phantom media that will hold up, and at the very least, look good on a shelf.
Do you have that?
I'm sure it's going to be more than that.
You have that moment, Ash, because there's not heaps of Phantom media. Like we can rattle off the DVDs and the games that on one hand that the Phantom has had. Do you ever have a moment of just being surreal, going, "Holy crap, I'm in that company"?
Oh yeah, like if I could go back and tell myself in like year 8 of high school when I was collecting the Phantom cards that I would be part of the brand, part of the 80 plus years of the Phantom, I wouldn't believe myself. Like it's a bit of a pinch yourself kind of moment. Like just making video games in general wasn't something I ever conceived in high school even when I got to university, because it just seems so hard and so difficult to break into. So even being here now, just making video game content, let alone for Phantom, I have to take stock of it most days, to be honest, and remind myself that there are a lot of people out there making stuff they don't want to make. They're trying to make ends meet. And we're in a very, very lucky position. And to be not only in this position, but to be to have such positive feedback so far from the fans globally, it warms my very, very cold, dark heart that the internet has been so kind to us so far. I mean, it could be at the tip and then the big roller coaster dip, but so far it's been an awesome experience. And yeah, I don't think I can talk about how important the Phantom has been to my life. And just to send something off to an invisible body on the other side of the world and have them message you back within a few hours and say, let's talk. I mean, if it ended there, it would have been good enough. But now and be able to talk at the events coming up in Sydney and stuff like that. It's all great. So yeah, it is surreal, to be honest.
Awesome. And we will have you back on the podcast. And I would love to be able to get you, Matt, and Anthony on for a podcast, maybe towards the release date or when we can actually play it and stuff like that. That'll be a very cool little get together.
Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, multiple time zones to coordinate, but it would be awesome. Having said that, no, that's not true. Anthony works ridiculous hours, so our afternoons are usually a good time. He's still cranking out the artwork. So
I hope you fans enjoyed that. I hope you're excited as what we are. If you want to find out more about us, we are at chroniclechamber.com. Our email, you can contact us at chroniclechamber@gmail.com. You've got artofplay.com or thephantomgame.com. Make sure you go on there. Make sure you sign up for Patreon. Make sure you sign up for to follow them on their social media and everything like that. And while you're at it, you might as well follow us on our social media. We're on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram as well. We want to hear your thoughts, your feedback, and opinions, so please let us know. You can also subscribe to us via YouTube or through your favourite podcast apps. From myself, happy Phantoming, and from the gents,
Happy Phantoming.
Happy Phantoming, guys. Appreciate it. Thank you.